Senator, we are here at a committee to look at a virus now that has killed almost 900,000 people. And the purpose of the committee was to try and get things out, how we can help to get the American public. And you keep coming back to personal attacks on me that have absolutely no relevance to reality.
Do you think anybody has had more influence over our response to this than you have? Do you think it's a great success? Do you think it's a great success what's happened so far? Do you think the lockdowns were good for our kids? Do you think we slowed down the death rate? More people have died now under President Biden than did under President Trump. You are the one responsible. You are the architect. You are the lead architect for the response from the government, and now 800,000 people have died.
Right.
So you think it's a winning success, what you've advocated for government?
Senator, first of all, if you look at everything that I said, you accuse me of in a monolithic way telling people what they need to do. Everything that I've said has been in support of the CDC guidelines. Wear a mask, get boosted.
And you've advocated to make it coercive and done through force. You've advocated that it be done by mandate.
Right.
You've advocated that your infallible opinion be dictated by law.
Right. So again, Madam Chair, I would like just a couple of minutes because this happens all the time. You personally attack me, and with absolutely not a shred of evidence of anything you say. So I would like to make something clear to the committee. He's doing this for political reasons. What you need to do is, he said in front of this committee.
You think your takedown of three prominent epidemiologists was not political?
You don't want me to finish because you know what I'm going to say.
That was the question. Were you political in taking down these three prominent epidemiologists?
Senator Paul, if you would please, I'm going to allow this, Dr. Fauci to respond. We have a number of senators who would like to ask questions, and I would like him to be able to respond. Please do so.
So the last time we had a committee, or the time before, he was accusing me of being responsible for the death of 4 to 5 million people, which is really irresponsible. And I say, why is he doing that? There are two reasons why that's really bad. The first is it distracts from what we're all trying to do here today, is get our arms around the epidemic and the pandemic that we're dealing with, not something imaginary. Number two, what happens when he gets out and accuses me of things that are completely untrue is that all of a sudden that kindles the crazies out there, and I have threats upon my life, harassment of my family and my children with obscene phone calls because people are lying about me. Now, I guess you could say, well, that's the way it goes. I can take the hit. Well, it makes a difference. Because as some of you may know, just about 3 or 4 weeks ago, on December 21st, a person was arrested who was on their way from Sacramento to Washington, D.C. at a speed stop in Iowa. And the police asked him where he was going, and he was going to Washington, D.C. to kill Dr. Fauci. And they found in his car an AR-15 and multiple magazines of ammunition, because he thinks that maybe I'm killing people. So I ask myself, why would Senator want to do this? So go to Rand Paul website, and you see fire Dr. Fauci with a little box that says, contribute here. You can do $5, $10, $20, $100. So you are making a catastrophic epidemic for your political gain. So
you have politically attacked your colleagues and in a politically reprehensible way attacked their reputations.
Nothing quite like Rand Paul's tactics getting exposed so that everyone can finally see the actual reason he's so hell-bent on attacking Dr. Fauci. Who would have guessed that it's in his financial benefit other than, everyone. Now here's the part that I find most shocking. Rand Paul, who's been one of the principal purveyors of skepticism against Dr. Fauci, against the vaccine, against mandates, actually has the audacity to sit up there and lecture the immunologist on whether the US's COVID response has been, quote, a great success so far. Yeah, I wonder why we're having trouble containing this thing. I wonder why when we have senators who are trotting themselves out on Fox to say stuff like this.
He made one huge mistake, an unforgivable mistake, and that is to ignore more natural immunity. We've got 150 million people in our country that have already had this. Now in the last couple of weeks, we're adding millions of people every week who have already gotten this. And the one thing we know is that if you get this mild variant, the Omicron, it actually is going to protect you against the more serious variants. This is basically nature's vaccine that is running through the community. That doesn't mean that some of our vulnerable people may not suffer and die from this. We should be trying to protect the vulnerable. Instead, he's a one-size-fits-all. Let's vaccinate the newborns. Let's vaccinate all the kids. And the thing is, that's not good science. That's actually malpractice.
Yeah, why bother taking the vaccine when you can just catch the virus and then congratulations, you've got nature's vaccine, which is almost like science's vaccine, except 900,000 people have died from it. So yeah, basically the same thing. So when Rand Paul wonders aloud why things are so shitty in this country as far as containing this pandemic is concerned, maybe, just maybe, it's not the fault of the guy who's been advocating for masks and social distancing and vaccines and vaccine mandates, and maybe it is the fault of the guy who's out there advocating for everyone to catch the virus so that they can get nature's vaccine, even though nature's vaccine means that we're left with hundreds of thousands of dead Americans, which clearly is a price that Rand Paul is willing to pay. Another point here is that Rand Paul says more people have died under President Biden than President Trump. And again, Paul is conferring the responsibility for COVID deaths off of those who've opposed safety measures like vaccines, which will virtually assure you of survival, and onto the people who've actually advocated for those safety measures. I mean, think about it. When Trump was president and we still had the chance to contain this pandemic, what did Republicans do? They opposed stay-at-home orders, they opposed masks, they opposed mass gathering bans. I mean, Trump literally held an indoor rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where his advisor Herman Cain caught COVID and died. And because of that willful negligence, 400,000 people lost their lives under Trump. And yes, more people have now died during Biden's presidency, but Biden's been 100% consistent in advocating for vaccines and boosters and safety measures. And yet the people who've died are virtually all unvaccinated, meaning they're not taking their cues from Biden, they're taking them from the Republicans like Rand Paul, who continue to foment resistance to those safety measures. So if Rand Paul is looking to blame the person responsible for all of those deaths in the last year, I can assure you it's not Joe Biden. But finally, the point of all of this, pointed out masterfully by Dr. Fauci, is that the sole reason that Rand Paul and the rest of these Republicans are doing any of this is because it helps them financially. Period. Republicans don't actually care one way or the other about what's right or wrong. A 5-year-old could look at deaths among vaccinated versus deaths among unvaccinated and recognize that virtually every death is someone who didn't get the vaccine. If this was about survival or safety or avoiding hospitalization or expensive bills or long COVID or any of that, the answer would be so painfully obvious that this whole thing would be over in 2 minutes. Get as many people vaccinated as humanly possible. Period. Just like we do for mumps and diphtheria and tetanus and polio and chickenpox and pertussis and rubella and hep A and hep B and measles. But the reason that we're talking about this is that Republicans like Rand Paul have realized that the more they can whip up vaccine skepticism and then cast people like Dr. Fauci, the nation's premier immunologist, as some type of a boogeyman, then they can raise more money vilifying him. This isn't about our health. This is about Rand Paul's re-election fund. The answer is right there in broad daylight on his website. Hundreds of thousands of people dying so that Rand Paul can line his pockets is clearly a price he's willing to pay, and so he leans into it. And instead of following the basic, obvious, clear as day science, he pushes back on everything, foments as much skepticism and conspiracies as possible, and then sits back and watches the cash roll in. So I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, conservative or liberal, this has nothing to do with science or medicine and everything to do with yet another run-of-the-mill corrupt politician who saw an opening to get rich quick and he took it. Don't let one man's greed supersede your right to a long and healthy life. And remember that Rand Paul is not looking out for you, he's looking out for Rand Paul. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.